Another day, another batch of problems to fix for me, which is fun. Walking in today knowing that I'm going to cop for a problem that happened yesterday afternoon / last night. Just because the word microservice is involved, but it's nothing to do with the microservice. Could almost guarantee. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a hoop. Whoa, bit of a time jump, ladies and gentlemen. It's technically the next day, but I haven't been to bed yet, so let's recap. So there was a couple of problems with life. It was all configuration based. Two of them, so one of them they spotted last night, yesterday, and they put a PR for it, but it's a slow change because it's got to go through the old legacy system. The other two problems were problems that were pretty obvious to me, but probably wouldn't be pretty obvious to anyone else. And I'm like reading the chat as they're discussing what they think the problems are. And you know when you're reading it like 12 hours later, and I'm going down and then they're looking at something and like, this can't be right. And I'm like, please, for the love of God, don't change that. Don't change that. That's right. I can understand why you think that isn't right, but it's right. Leave it alone, please, for the love of God. Thank God for that. So yeah, it was literally just configuration-based issues where the message buses weren't talking to each other properly, basically. So fix that. It's something really satisfying as well by moving 900 error messages. Just picking them up, put them on the other queue, and they're more just being processed. Fuck, there's something real freaking nice about that. But yeah, so it was a bit of a not stressful day, but it was a bit of a like gotta fix problems kind of days today at work. And then I came home and I've been chipping through my own programming stuff because I now have a fully functional like something that starts up and connects microservice for my next microservice. So I've got an API and a consumer. Neither of them do anything, but they're there and they start up, and that's all good. Merge that, and now I'm looking at starting the pipeline. So this is basically as another microservice, as something happens over there, it kicks off something so that it can start on this one. And yeah, basically the first one has like one context, and then this has a context using that information. So I need to get the data from that microservice into this microservice, and that is the thing I'm going to do next. But yeah, so I was doing that, and then I got to the point where I'm like, right, I think it's probably time to go to bed. I've also been looking at doing, tidying up the, what happens when a pull request goes through the system. Looking at that now, so Gucci. It's a bit of a hoot, working on it, not a problemo. But that's on my laptop, so that's just what I'm doing at work at lunchtime and stuff. So, good times. Has anything else happened today? I don't think so, lad. Just been bizarrely productive. I feel like I get these days where they're like all of a sudden bizarrely productive in the middle of like nothing, for no real reason. Oh, god damn it. But yeah, I'm trying to get everything to a point where I'm like, chip through, and I'm making notes. The problem is there's so much stuff now that I could do that I've got to be really selective about what I spend time on and where and why, you know? Oh, I also did shit myself a little bit when I added Azure Service Bus connections to my .NET Core microservice, because I'm like, oh fuck, is that .NET Core now? Because they dragged their heels on that for a really long time, Azure Service Bus, and that's the whole reason like N Service Bus and Mass Transit were slow to adopt. No, sorry, Mass Transit's always been .NET Core since it came out, but N Service Bus was really slow to adopt it because of the way that Azure Service Bus kept changing its configuration and was supported .NET Core but didn't support everything. But panic averted, there's a separate NuGet package. They kind of forked it a little bit, so phew, there might be some functionality in there that I can't use now. I probably should check what that is. I'll put that on my to-do list to check what functionality I've just decided I'm not allowed to use because I'm using the core package instead of the full fat one. But, you know what, as much as I really wasn't looking forward to coming to work and putting out some fires yesterday, I have nothing to do today, so kind of wish it was yesterday again, so I'd have something to do, you know, so I could feel like I had work to do. Kind of wish it was a little bit more trivial for me to plug in my laptop and work on my laptop, or even transfer code between my laptop and my desktop. Having said that, I do have some phone calls I need to make today, so there's at least that I need to do, which will take like 10 minutes of my time. we were having some issues connecting to getting data back from a third-party service we're integrating at the moment. And diving down their docs and stuff, couldn't figure out why. We had to contact them and they pointed us in the right direction. Turns out they don't accept currency in pounds, they accept it in pence. So, and there's a minimum purchase. So when you send £20 as 20.00, they take that as 20 pence and just lop off the rest of it. And then we looked in their docs to figure out if that was ever mentioned, and it turns out it is mentioned. If you know that they don't accept pounds, you can find the bit that says that they accept pence, if that makes any kind of sense. But there is no way you would have stumbled across that accidentally, you know? God damn. Your boy is back home. Interesting day-to-day at work. I fixed the other issue that we had where the message buses were all broken. There's something really satisfying about just queuing 1,900 errors and just watching them all pass. That's really nice. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, a bit of fun stuff around there, but otherwise, again, another somewhat boring day. I've set it up now so that I can plug my laptop into my screens, and then I just need to take my keyboard and mouse dongle and then into there, and then I can use my laptop on my monitors. Problem being that one of the other monitors will eventually turn off when my other computer locks itself. So I'm trying to figure out a solution for that. I've also, the person who's sitting next to me inside my tester friend's seat, she normally sits opposite me, and I've stolen one of her cables, so I need to remember to give that back on Friday. But yeah, anyway, because I needed a micro display cable for my Surface. But anyway, that's by the by. I'm home now and I'm trying to think about, I need to set up a pipeline. I think pipeline is the best word for what it is I'm about to try and create. But I'm not sure whether or not it is or not. You know? You know what I'm saying, fam? I feel like it probably is the best route thing I can do. My question is, should you have more than one pipeline? I guess you should be able to store a staging pipeline, right? Because I need to kick off this pipeline when you link a repository. Or I need to kick off something that basically says something's going to be here, but it's not here yet, effectively. And then the user can then add in their stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I can work around that. There's a little fly there who wants to get out. Instead of going out after me opening the window, he just flew out the fucking room. Fuck you, fly. We'll be bashing against another window now, but yeah. Yeah, he is, there he is. So yeah, I feel like I want to call it repository. The initial thing is the saga that I'm kicking off. I feel like that should be a repository saga. But does it make sense to have a repository service which has a repository saga in it, and part of that saga kicks off the idea of a repository in a different folder? And is it a repository at that point? Do I care what it is? Is it just source code? Project saga? To me, it's just literally a link to that other repository, and I guess you... What is it they say about software engineering? There's two things that's difficult in computing. Naming things is number two, and number one is caching validation, which is also very difficult. I feel like repository is the correct word to use here, but I don't want to use it because it's the exact same name. It's literally the exact same as the one that's in another repo. So there is a repository saga under a microservice called repository. I feel weird creating another repository saga in another one, because if you were to say the word repository saga, you now need to clarify which one you mean. You know? It's thesaurus check repository. I think I'm gonna have to go with repository. Because like the rest of it is like source code, code source, some bollocks like that. I can't go with pipeline because pipeline is going to be a child of this repository. You'd have multiple pipelines to one repository. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let us have a looky-see then. Just gonna stick with repository. It's not impossible to change. It's just a pain in the ass to change later. We're just gonna have to deal with the fact that two microservices have the same name for different things. It'll be fine. This is gonna be one of them things. When my company is successful, in 10 years time, some little shit like me will come along and be like, why are these two things named the same thing when they're completely different? Doesn't make any sense. So it's going good. It's going good so far, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just starting to spin up microservice. Someone in a garden opposite me who can clearly see me vlogging right now is just starting a fire outside, which is interesting. And every time if I look, they can see me looking, so stop looking. I'm spinning up the Saga and replicating some data around how to update some NuGet packages because I'm listening into events that have been raised from the other microservice and I need a little bit more data on them. So I'm having some minor difficulty ATM with processor architecture and stuff like that. So when I'm trying to run the tests, well, these look, to be fair, like project issues. Some minor complications involved with the fact that I'm now in .NET Core instead of the full fat framework because like it's injecting in effectively polyfills. NuGet packages, if you think of them like that. The way that it does it is it basically knows what it's going to run on, and then it injects in different versions of the same NuGet packages so that it kind of runs on the same platform. And it's kind of all underneath the skin, you can't see it. But that complicates things, and I think it explicitly complicates things because I'm on an AMD processor. So there's like, it's kind of a bit of a fucking cesspit of shit. But there's some warnings that are flashing up at the moment anyway. But at the moment it won't, the tests run, but they don't properly run through. And I think that's because the tests aren't referencing the things that are needed. There's a weird scenario happening on again where I need the tests to implement all of the NuGet packages of the projects that they're testing. And sometimes I don't need that. And I haven't figured out why that is. I need to figure that out. But yeah, another productive day, man. Another productive day. Why? But I'm going to bed early because I woke up this morning and I was feeling a bit worse for wear. Well, not worse for wear, but feeling a bit tired. So, bed earlier than midnight. It's a new day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back home. I've just done my daily routine of get home, watch a YouTube video, eating my bounty that I'm supposed to eat for lunch at work, but don't. Feels like back when I was a kid and I used to get lunch money for lunch at school. And I wouldn't get... What is it that we wouldn't get? Well, I can't remember what it was, but there was like two options, and then I'd save up the week, and then on the last day I'd be able to get like an Oasis from the vending machine. Woo! I think I got like the £1.20 meal instead of the £1.50 one that I was supposed to get. And then I'd save up enough money to get an Oasis. It was something like that. How tragic is that, man? Bit of a non-starter day today for me. It's been majorly productive, if you know what I mean, but not particularly productive. If you know what I'm saying. I've come to the conclusion that I've done my database wrong for one of my microservices, and because I'm trying to, basically what I'm doing is I'm splitting up the work that I need to do for my platform. Some of the work I can do on my laptop because it doesn't need as much grunt work. And I'm currently doing that, and I need to update. Just watching that car absolutely fuck up parking in that spot, which is nowhere near big enough. My lord! It is also right across a driveway. But anyway, so the yeah, so I'm splitting up the work. So the things that I need more grunt work on, or I need more screen real estate, I do at home on Atlas. And then other stuff I'm chipping away with on my laptop. So I've just been doing some stuff to do with tidying up some of the stuff that I'd got working on a previous story. So I'm doing what do I do if I've completed a pull request? Because I've got updated and created, but I don't have completed or abandoned yet. So I'm just going to chip through those on my laptop. Problem being that I want to update the state of the database, and the way that I've done the schema for the database in that microservice wasn't very wise. And what I was attempting to do was do it in a way where I could slice. I was thinking about how I was going to shard it. And what I've not considered is the thing that I need to shard should just be completely separate entirely. And I've effectively bundled two things onto one thing and therefore create like an extra layer of nesting, which means that anything that I do in this thing, I can't do to its children, because you can't do two-way nested positional queries in Mongo. So I've basically gone X, item 1, item 2, and then item 2 has a load of lists registered to it. So it's got a load of things like, that's got pull requests linked to it. It's got service hooks and all that kind of stuff, all linked on that object. But because it's in item 2 and item 2 is also an array, what I should be doing is thinking about that more carefully and actually separating out the data so that it can be correctly linked and ship. So that's what I'm going to do now. I am going to do myself a little bit of work, piece of paper. I'm going to draw out what I now think the database should look like from my current perspective so that I can do that work. And I feel like I did put it on my backlog to do at some point, but I feel like it's going to start blocking me on stuff that I need to do. And I should probably address it sooner rather than later. So I might do that tonight. So I started off splitting it out into two different things. Effectively the external credentials in which I use to communicate with third-party services, being thing number 1. And then the repositories that those external services store, being thing number 2. But I feel like I potentially need to move out a separate thing for pull requests and or the other things that kind of fall under the same umbrella. It's not as simple as just pull requests. They're just the first thing. Because the problem is those things can live a long time. Nah, it can probably live on there, to be fair, on the repository thing. Because, right, no, James. The connection we have is, oh no, that's a dumb example. I was going to say pull requests are very explicit to a specific repository, so therefore they should live on there. But a repository is also very specific to the credentials that own it. Correct? Correct. Likewise, snapshots thereof. It's the inclusion of snapshots that throw it, because snapshots are, it's thinking in a non-relational way. You've got to step away from that. You've got to be like, if I was to pull all of the data from this, what do I want? What do I want if I pulled the repository? All of the pull requests? Probably not. But if I pulled the pull request, would I want the snapshots? Probably. It'll be good. I can definitely pull out that though. That's step number 1. Let's pull that out into its own repository and we can think more about this one. I'm conscious of the fact that I don't necessarily want to just think about it for too long, you know? Basically, the problem was I'd collapsed all of the data into one area. So I'd like decided that what I was going to do was have you as a user can have multiple collections in this folder, in this collection thing. And then I added a load of data to that one collection. Now what I'm doing is splitting that out into multiple collections, but I'm trying to not make to go far enough. So the question should then be actually, because I was reading up about how in relational stuff it's 1 to n, but in Mongo it's like 1 to a few, 1 to a couple, and 1 to like squillions. Snapshots will never hit squillions. It'll be like 1,000. So yeah. I'm thinking. I'm definitely going to pull out the first one first, but I'm thinking I'm still going to go providers, repositories. Not providers, repositories, pull requests. I think that's fair. Yeah. Last day of the week, ladies and gentlemen. This week has dragged. quite badly at work. They're like kicking off a big old meeting thing upstairs where they've got like a third-party company in, and it's like a brainstorming session. They're calling it the war room, so it's pretty cringe, to be honest. Because of that, like downstairs is really quiet. My best mate isn't there because she's on holiday, so I'm looking forward to this week being over, to be honest with you. And it's Friday, so it basically is already over. Happy days. I think I've got a couple of meetings today, and then otherwise just chip around doing some learning, doing a bit of programming, you know. Might be lucky there's a chance a bug is going to rear its ugly head, but potentially not. I don't think it will, but we submitted a load of things to this third-party company as like, hey, this transaction's finished. We submitted loads of them because we backed them up on a message processor while we was having issues with our microservice. Well, no, with the deployment pipeline. I should tell the truth there. So we processed like 1,900 requests, and they kicked back successful on every single one of them, and yet half of them are still like unprocessed in their platform if we log in and have a look. And I'm like, you better not fuck this up for us, you know, because I have no idea how to recover if you've told us successful and you're not successful, you know. Because the thing is as well, some of them might legitimately not be successful and on purpose, and we'll have no way of knowing. Actually, I'm not sure that's true. I think the Saga should be able to keep track, but it'll be hard work. We'd have to hand crank like 900 messages. Another somewhat nondescript day today. We didn't really get a crazy amount of stuff done. I was getting ready for a, what's it called? I was like writing down some notes on how to solve a problem if a problem should arise. There's a chance it already has arisen, but we don't know. So I thought, I'm going to document this, just in case. But yeah, apart from that, we had the world's longest stand-up. We had a 45-minute stand-up, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe? Basically because we went to stand outside because there's this big old thing going on where we normally do our stand-up, which is in like a big conference area. I should shine a light on that. Our office is like office floor where you do all your work and stuff downstairs, and then there's like two tiny meeting rooms which are always in use because there's not enough of them, basically. And then upstairs there's the kitchen, and then just like a big open space which they usually use for like presentations and stuff. But at the moment there's like this big old thing where they've got third-party companies in as well, so we can't go there. So we're like, let's go outside. I'm trying to do a thing where on Fridays we do stand-up outside. Trying to introduce that. It's a good place to do it, you know, get out the office, it's fine until you get squawked at by seagulls constantly, and you can barely concentrate either because every time one flies overhead you got to make sure that it doesn't, you've got to dodge just in case, you know. Otherwise, I've been working hard on figuring out how to do databases in the context of what I'm up to and whatnot. So obviously I'm restructuring my databases in order to better support Mongo / allow myself to query data better, so I don't have to do it in memory. I can let Mongo do it rather than me, because previously I went too deep, man. I nested too deep with my nested array, and now I am I could see a picture of someone. I could see a reflection of someone in a window. Clearly this person is sat in like the far corner of their garden in the only patch of sun and just like this. I could see some chairs, and she's not sat in those chairs. She's moved a chair. Yeah, so as I was doing that, I was taking the opportunity to address something. So what I did previously was I split out read-only, I'm using a repository pattern, and I split out read-only repositories and the real repository in an attempt to make sure that things that can only read, and things that can only write, can read and write, can do both. The problem is that I then had like two sets of interfaces going in, which was annoying because then I would have to inject the read-only one and the write one, even though they're the same thing, kind of bugging me. So what I've now done is I've got a repository thing, which then has update and query on it, and then that gives you the interfaces for the other one. Really, it's all the same object underneath, but you don't know that. It's all explicitly on the interface and whatnot. And it's a lot nicer. Just gotta open that bit. It's a lot nicer, but the problem is that I've now got to go through and refactor all of this stuff. The one thing I don't know whether or not I'm going to do is there is like, I also split out, which is why it got annoying, internal interfaces. So if you as a user try and query something, anything that's accessible via the API, you have to provide a party ID. And that party ID is, you don't pass it via the API, it's part of your like logged in credentials, which basically means that you can't query via an API the database without being logged in as that person. It's like an extra layer of like security mishap-proof. You can only see your data, even if you got access to the API directly, because you've got to be logged in and then you can only see your data. But on the message bus, you aren't logged in. So I can create this internal one, which is like a different repository, which now allows you to do things without double checking your party ID. I'm trying to decide how important that is, because effectively I could achieve the same thing by code reviews, right? But it just kind of forces you out. Yeah, so effectively the problem was I was using a combination of the internal one, the write one, and the read one, and there was like, I'm fixing that. That's what I'm doing. Long story short, that's what I'm up to. At some point I need to take the code off, take the footage off this camera and make vlogs. So I think I'm gonna have to do tomorrow. The problem is I've left the camera footage on here, so I have no idea how long the previous vlogs have been. But I need to schedule them because I'm behind again. I'm going to go on an absolute mad one, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to end this video here. Why is that a mad one? Come back next time, find out. I'll catch you later.